I come from a family of very traumatized people, right? And like when I started doing the work on myself, then I started realizing, oh, this also happened to my mom.
Yeah.
Oh, this also happened to my cousin.
Yeah.
Oh, this happened. Why is it so pervasive?
Yeah.
And the culture that creates is that no one wants to talk about it. And so I grew up going through these things, which were extremely difficult. But as messed up as those things were, it wasn't the most traumatizing parts. The parts was, don't talk about it.
Goya Robles, you're back on Checkitow.
Yeah, I'm back.
Damn, round 2, dog. All right, last time I left the interview like a different man. Like you changed my perspective on so many things in life. I saw such depth. All right. You've been doing a lot since last time I saw you.
I have, man. I've been up to a lot, creating a lot, and having a lot of fun in the process. So, yeah.
So let's talk about the latest thing. You were on Griselda, which has been a big hit for Netflix, and you played Monkey Morales.
Yes.
So I grew up in Miami. I was born around that Cocaine Cowboys time, and it was a very impactful time that Miami still feels both good and bad to this day. What do you know about those stories, like as far as doing the research and stuff on who Monkey Morales was, and the Cuban smugglers, the Colombian cocaine dealers, and how the wars between them all kind of like what was the research like for that?
Well, it was interesting. I actually got to, there were a few podcasts that I got to listen to, and his son was being interviewed on a couple of them. And so I reached out to one of these podcasts and be like, can you let this monkey's son, then I'm depicting him in the show, and I would love to have a conversation with him. And sure enough, he hit me back, and we jumped on a little Zoom call, and he told me just about his father and what it was like growing up with him. And it was fascinating, He was a man who, not only did he work with the CIA, but worked as a spy for the Venezuelan government, and also, also worked with the cartels. And he was just like this double agent all around. And, it was also interesting to hear from his son how difficult their relationship was, and for good reason, his Monkey was always in danger in somehow, at least that world that he attracted to himself. And so there was a distance that he had with his sons and his family, and he didn't see them often, and so I think being Monkey, even if it was only in one scene in the show, but I think getting perspective from his son helped me just make it at least a little more personal. It's quite limited. I try to find information on him, and I mean there's plenty as far as the world that he operated in, but I found what his son had to share about who he was more fascinating, contextualizing, because a lot of times you can get lost in the sauce when you're looking up at all the crazy stuff that, you know what I mean? But that's just the surface of who they were,
right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, and these were, it's a very interesting time, and the kind of people that got involved, because like you said about the agents and all that stuff, a lot of these Cuban and Colombian soldiers, for lack of a better term, that got involved in the game were soldiers, meaning you got Cubans that are coming out of Cuba that either fought in the Bay of Pigs or whatever. Now they have connections with the CIA, guns and all that stuff. And of course, there's not much that they can do outside of that except something like drug smuggling, right? And then Colombia as well. You have a lot of guys that were coming in and out of militias who were getting involved, and so you had a very high level of capacity for violence, and a very cold, militaristic look at life. If this person's got to go because they're in the way, they got to go because they're in the way. There's not. It's not even it wasn't even emotional for a lot of these people, but they'd have relationships at home. They'd have families and all that stuff, and they try to keep two completely separate lives.
Yeah.
That's what always gets me about these guys. They had to live two completely separate lives.
Absolutely. I'm fascinated with the world. I think that monkey, I think his story itself could be its own series, its own, because they didn't really go into his. I mean, it wasn't about him.
Right.
You know, it was about Griselda.
Well, is there any interest in doing something with the character and with you as the portrayer?
Oh, I mean, I don't. I have, if I was given the opportunity, sure. I don't know. I know his son, Ricardo, has a whole project that they've been developing on it. So, yeah.
Were they happy with your portrayal of him?
I don't know. I haven't got a chance to talk to him afterward. I know he did hit me up. Actually, hit me up. He's like, great job, cool, but we didn't get a real chance to like chop it up,
Dude, I think he liked it. I mean, you got a lot of gravitas to it. Like, how do you feel about the reaction to the series? I mean, you've been on a couple series already. Get Shorty, right? And you've been on a bunch of, like, especially procedurals. Love You, like Law and Order and all that stuff. But this show got a lot of buzz, got a lot of hype.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be on a show that has all this hype and everybody's kind of talking about it? Even if your role could have been bigger,
I mean, I don't really care.
You did the thing. You put it in the books.
Like,
you got the
it's
check.
cool, man. I mean, God bless her. I'm glad that it's doing well. I don't know. I'm just on my own path. Like I'm working on very specific projects. The thing is, I do these projects, and I'm grateful for doing them. But I get cast a lot as, the cartel guy,
Right.
the dealer, the villain in some sort of way, and I'll never knock on the opportunities because they've allowed me to have a career and to be able to have, like, this is all I've been doing. I don't have any side jobs. This is my main thing, so I'm grateful for that. And like, my vision is bigger for myself and my community, and so that's those, so in that
It's a complex
sense,
relationship that you have to these characters you're playing because, like you said, there's a lot that you're gaining from it, but there's also a certain level where you're gonna be like, all right, let's try something different.
Yeah, like, listen, I am completely aware that I've gotten typecast. That's just what it is. And you know what? I'm gonna rock it. I'm gonna do all I gotta do. I don't judge my characters. I make sure that I give them a soul, and I really do the work. And it's like, let's keep it moving.
Right.
Keep it moving. And so I'm at a really cool juncture in my career at the moment where, there's a couple things that I'm working on that are in progress right now, where when those receive the kind of notoriety that I'm seeking, it will speak to me because it's like, I want to portray people from our community as more than just, cartel people and and dealers and stuff like that. And there's so many profoundly complex archetypes in our community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, if there's anyone who can bring that complexity to life, it's you. So I definitely support everything you're doing. So let's talk about how you're trying to expand. You're writing a lot, right? So you're writing right now a feature that you say is getting some momentum. Can't really talk about things like attachments or associations yet, but can you tell us about what it's about and
Sure. Yeah. So the film I wrote, it's called To Be Loved. It's about a 13-year-old boy who runs away from an abusive mother with his little brother who's super, like, artistically gifted. And this older brother is, like, on search for a twin sister that he never knew he had. And it's based off of a true things that have happened in my life. I have an older sister who passed away when I was 15. She was 17. She was like 3 days after her birthday. She passed from a heart attack. However, I grew up being told that, when she was 6 weeks old, the babysitter accidentally dropped her on her head, and she got really scared and didn't say anything, and she fled the country. And then 3 days later, my sister stopped breathing. my mom took her to the hospital, and then it's like, you know, they brought, you know, stabilized her, but then they said, you know, she's not gonna make it past the age of 20 probably, because her body's gonna go through crazy changes through puberty, and that's what happened. You know, she passed from a lot of different complications. So that's the story I grew up with. And then a few years ago, I was talking with my uncle, and he was like, nah. He's like, I think your dad had something to do with it. And it always stuck with me because my dad, he was always like this person who kind of abandoned us. And he was this alcoholic. He's never talked about my sister, you know, and no one has given me a completely straight story. So what I did is I wrote this film to try to figure out first what may have happened, but also like to put words in certain people's mouths through these characters that maybe they've been yearning to say, would love to say, or wish they had the courage to say, but they're probably gonna die before they ever say it.
Bro, you're giving me chills. This is gonna be a thing. Wow, man.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not like a braggadocio guy. I don't like doing that, but my script is probably the best thing that I've ever written. We have real interests from real like heavy hitters in the industry, as much as I could say about it. And the more collaborative the process becomes, the better the story gets, and it's beautiful to know. Like, we've had quite a few stage readings of it, and by the end of it, just to see how deeply affected people are, just to see that you can have a real dramatic story that, yes, there's trauma and violence in it, but there's also joy and humor in the most crazy places that you would never expect it to be, you know? And so it's exciting, and you know, these are the kind of things. This, for me, this is what I want to make my career about, is to creating real stories from our community of like what it takes to overcome the most impossible odds, you know, and that's my jam, you know what I mean?
Bro, I sense that you have, like, you know, acting and being able to perform and being present and being in the moment is a power, right? You can call it a talent. We'll refer to it as a power. And some actors make it with not a lot, but what they have on the surface works. It's very functional. And then you got actors like you that have this like well, right? But there's a gravitas to it, you know, like it's heavy, right? So, like, are you starting to gain the reputation of being one of these like gravitas, like weighty actors that some actors might actually be intimidated by and might be like, this is a little too much, like let's keep it light, and then other actors are like, no, this is what we need to like bring gravity to the scene. We need a guy like Goya. Are you starting to see that people are seeing you that way?
I mean, I'm not sure. I guess I don't stop enough to think about it that way, you know? All I know is that my work is directly correlated to my own healing and my own process as a person. Like no one's going to help me come to terms with some of my own trauma and my own challenges except me. And I use my writing as a way to do that. I use my acting as a way to do that. And the more that I process, it deepens my ability to have empathy for the characters that I channel, and you know, it allows me to let go of things that have maybe held me down for quite some time. There are traumatic things that I've gone through that used to have a specific effect on me that don't have that effect on me anymore, and it has everything to do with how much I'm willing to put it on the page, or how much I'm willing to dig into myself when I'm taking on a character. And I think, you know, I've gotten jobs from that. People have come to see me do things, and I think the thing that keeps moving my career forward is making sure that I'm always working on something that does not need to be justified by money, by a paycheck. Like, there are things that I work on that I don't get paid I put in the work because I need to do it. This is my calling. This is what I'm here to do. And when I have that approach, there's always somebody in the audience, or there's always someone observing that I'm like, oh my God, I got this. That's how I got Get Shorty. You know, that's how I booked the movie 11:55. I was doing a stage reading. And in that stage reading, the work that I did, I didn't get paid for that. But someone was in the audience, be like, you would be perfect for this role. And so I took that as a lesson. What am I working on right now that doesn't need to be justified by money?
Can you picture yourself as an actor, writer, poet, if you had lived a different life, an easy life, dare I say happy all the time life, no, nothing that you would qualify as anywhere near traumatic as what you've actually experienced? Would you? I doubt that you'd be the same talent, but would you be a talent at all? Is it like, can you picture yourself being like?
Well, I think, I mean, a big part of art is being able to transmute hardship and challenges and trauma into something else, right? Now, yeah, to your question, I'm not sure, but I would like to think that it's really about how, I don't think trauma should be the only pathway to be able to create art. Right. I also think that it could be like, who's leading you, who's guiding you to be empathetic. I think empathy is the biggest teacher when it comes to how to engage in any form of art, and including acting. I don't think that I think depending on who's teaching you, on who's parenting you, on who's leading you how to connect to the world and connect to others and getting interested and being curiously engaged, that can give someone who's never really had big trauma to the same access.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to think so. I mean, I'm about to be a dad.
Yeah.
And I have no interest in passing off my trauma to him.
Right.
Right? But I have every interest in making sure that my son grows up and like is never indifferent to anyone's suffering and never is indifferent to anyone's experience. So
well, that's where art helps communicate some of that to someone, and maybe they're not going to have the same knowledge and wisdom as experiencing it, but they can understand, and it'll open up their perspective, to know, okay, my dad went through this, or this artist who's trying to express this goes through this. Now, that's very interesting. So citing out of and dude, I think it's I think it's your power that you can go that deep. But I'm also seeing that because of all this healing, and you've built this career on a foundation of all this like gravitas and emotion and depth, a little darkness, which I find very compelling. But now it's almost like you're getting beyond, like not just your kid is not gonna have but you're getting beyond your trauma. So now I picture you like on the back end of your career doing a bunch of light like humor and comedy and just like, so we'll see. But shifting out of how to do a lot of the healing from the art, we were talking before we started about plant medicines and you can talk about spirituality. Some people use all this new agey stuff that some people kind of think is woo woo, but it's definitely changed my life. I've had to deal with certain things and growing up as well, I had very young parents. I was in an accident. They were 18, 19. That already had I realized a lot of the stuff that I went through as a kid with them. They were like, trying to figure things out. But plant medicines, when I did ayahuasca, and I also do mushroom ceremonies and stuff. I've done combo. I haven't done bufo, which you said you did. But it helped me, number one, connect with spirit, whatever that is. Because I was very anti-religious growing up. Rebelling against being Catholic, you know how Latin households are with all that. But connecting with spirit, and then I could like kind of, and letting go and healing was easier under these, not just influences, but also in like the gesture of like a ceremonial setting, which is why shamanism is very important. So tell me about your experience. You said you did Bufo. Tell me about what led you to do something that's probably one of the scariest ones because you go super deep.
Yeah.
And what you got out of it.
Well, I've done it twice.
Okay.
Right. The first time I did it was in 2021 in, was it May? Maybe May, around there, or something like that. And it was, we had a ceremony, and I remember I was going through a rough time. You know, it's like my partner at that time, we were just going through a lot of difficulties, and then we did this together. And I remember as I'm smoking in the bufo, the toad, at a certain point everything goes white, and there's no sense of direction. There's like an infinite color spectrum. There's no, and then, you know, they call it the ego death, right? And I didn't really understand it until that moment, because everywhere I tried to find me, I couldn't find it. And so it was like going through me. So it was like this, whatever the identity, that nothing, just not, nowhere. And it was in that space, when the ego's not there, I was left with all the shit, all the stuff, all kind of like the areas in myself in which that were working in the background, that were limiting my spirit in every way. And it became this, there was one moment where, because it felt, I felt it showed up as like this black thing that was just like, it almost felt like this poison running through my body. And at a certain point, you know, through physical gesture, I just remember screaming at the top of my lungs, almost like in defiance of all of it. And it was only through that moment where I got to find compassion for someone who had really hurt me in the past, like as a child, like really took away an innocence of mine. And but I wasn't able to get there organically until I expressed every part of that rage. Right? There's no skipping, right? There's no forgiveness. There's you know, I used to think that you had to forgive in order to move on. No. There's nothing to forgive until you feel the injustice of what was taken from you. And so that's what I got to experience. Yeah. And that was that, which, so that was super healing.
In other words, I think you're saying when something that heavy happens to you as a kid, you protect yourself by walling up. And that take the wall out and really feel what you were trying to make yourself not feel in order just to survive.
Well, also, like, you know, you know, I come from a family of very traumatized people, right? And like, when I started doing the work on myself, then I started realizing, oh, this also happened to my mom. Oh, this also happened to my cousin. Oh, this happened. Why is it so pervasive? And the culture that creates is that no one wants to talk about it. And so I grew up going through these things which were extremely difficult, but as messed up as those things were, it wasn't the most traumatizing parts. The parts was, don't talk about it. Or seeing one of the perpetrators at a family party, dancing with everyone. Like, seeing that, what does that communicate to us as kids? Oh, what I feel doesn't matter. I'm invincible. I'm invisible, right? And so it was being able to express that. Finally, started closing the gaps and being able to really speak with my family about it in a way where now we've normalized speaking about it. That's huge. It's huge.
To be able to talk about something hard in an easy way is an accomplishment. So how does your family see you now as this guru that's brought in this spiritual awakening to the family?
Nah, they stay clowning me. You know what I mean?
Humor's important, man. You gotta.
My sister has, my brothers, they're notorious. My mom too. They love making fun of me, which is all in good humor, you know. But they also were there to see the hardships. You know, it took a lot for me to get here. You know,
you could have taken a whole other route in life and been in a whole other place.
Full transparency, a few years ago, I tried to take my own life. Damn. I was just not like, it was done. You know, I was done with it, and I really battled depression and like PTSD and like just. It's been a consistent effort to try to overcome, and walk through the fires. But now I'm at a place. I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but this is the most in my body that I have ever been in my life, nice. And I think my family sees that. They trust it. They don't worry like they used to, and then having. You know, my lady is pregnant, and I can't begin to tell you how healing it is to see that I participated in the creation of life.
Yeah,
it's.
And you're also gonna do something very important. You're gonna end a cycle of shit.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna start a whole new cycle of positivity, and you're gonna be the fulcrum point. You know.
Absolutely.
That's a huge opportunity. You know, like that. I'm happy to hear that, because if there's one person that really deserves to have that opportunity, is you. You now, by the way. Maybe not necessarily you a few years ago, because you were still doing the work. So I see it in your eyes. Like you're ready to do it. You're ready to rock and roll.
Thank you, man.
Let's talk a little bit about the poetry. Are you still doing a lot of the poetry?
You know, I do it here and there. You know, I think
that's gotta be like you're talking about things that you don't get paid for. Like there's no poetry industry.
No, there isn't. I usually when I write is because I really need to.
Okay.
It's again, not justified by money. Like I need to, and so here and there I still write. I have my own little things that I write, but then every once in a while, there's something that comes up that makes me feel like I have to. But
like spoken word, I mean, I think New York was definitely the place where a lot of spoken word was happening, because you just got that scene there. There was the Def Jam, right? Def Jam.
Def Poetry Jam.
Yeah, that was like the peak of like, oh damn, if I do spoken word, I can
used to love that series.
Yeah. So I mean, you obviously use it as you know, because on this show we have a lot of comedians and stuff, and it's a great way to get up on stage and express something that's hard to explain. But spoken word is a great way to express something very powerfully that's also hard, you know, to get at, whether it's personal or sometimes political. Now, it brings us to like, we're in a weird time, and it's been like this for a few years, but especially with things going on around the world, it's hard to express political thought, especially in the entertainment industry, without, okay, am I gonna get backlash from certain people? Yeah. Am I gonna get canceled? Am I gonna piss off agents, producers, or people on the, you know? So like, you've been very thoughtful in some of the things that you say politically. What do you like? Take a second to be like, all right, how am I gonna say this so that, or do you just like, nah, this is whatever comes of this expression comes of it. You know, cancellation be damned, pissing off somebody be damned. Like, how do you feel about that before you make a political expression on online these days?
I mean, you know, I try to be as thoughtful as I can be, and I had to ask myself. So, like, for example, what's happening right now in Palestine, and I don't want to call it a conflict. It's not a conflict. It's you know, it's a slaughter. There's like genocidal, just intent written all over what's happening, and for. It's interesting because I'm in an industry where it's like, oh, you gotta tiptoe around certain things, right. and in order to, you know, will I get alienated. People have been losing job opportunities left and right from so many different industries, just attempting to humanize, right? Just attempting to just saying, ceasefire now can cost you your job.
That's crazy.
And that's wild. And I had to have a really serious conversation with myself. I'm like, do I really want to hold back how I feel about what is happening because I can potentially miss out on a job opportunity? Right. Fuck your job.
Yeah.
All due respect. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But this idea that I have to ignore what's happening in my nervous system.
Yeah.
And we've been taught to, like, and God bless. I got even some people in my circle who I understand why they try not to look, and because they've grown up traumatized, and they can't handle what happens in their nervous system. And I'm like, we've been taught that just handle your own shit. Never mind what's happening over there or what's happening in the community next to you. Just deal with, therapy has been very individualized. I think that we're missing out on an opportunity of like this, the collective impact of what happens when that kind of trauma is being instilled on a mass scale, and I'm not interested in sacrificing my humanity or shutting it down, and it can be scary because, maybe I won't get some of these jobs.
Right.
But what? So, yeah.
But I feel that the integrity that you show when you express yourself, because there's some people that might say things that I even agree with, but they're kind of like just, I don't know, they're making it about them. Whereas when you express something, it's obviously it's coming from you, and there's your perspective and your feelings and your nervous system and all that stuff. But you really try to make it about what you're talking about, and others, right? The empathy that you talk about. I think that in the long run is going to help you out, especially as a writer, as an actor, as a creator, because you're going to get respect from at least the section of the industry that wants to see like real art and real expression.
For sure.
And they're not gonna hold it against you. They're gonna actually like hold it up. But man, there's people in the industry that are just so shallow and superficial and compliant and conformist. They see a guy like you speaking up, and they're like,
yeah. And even when those people, I try to be compassionate with, in the sense that, listen, like, like even in the Jewish community, it's such a wide spectrum of how people feel about what's happening,
absolutely.
right? Such a wide, and I think that is because it's directly correlated to how people process their trauma as individuals and as a collective, right? It's like, if I didn't do the buffo and I held that rage in me all that time, what I'd be, besides harming myself, my willingness to harm those who I perceived as perpetrators would intensify. You get what I mean? And so it's like, I had to, just for my own peace, for my own sanity, and for my own unwillingness to pass on that trauma. I do that kind of work. And I think, and I see that in I like when people are so belligerent about justifying the killing of children, of babies, just as saying, oh yes, but Hamas, right? And I didn't know that the responsibility of our humanity belonged to Hamas or to anyone else but us, right? And it's like and so that's why I ask when I see people like that, I'm like, oh, that you seem, and it doesn't mean that people don't have the right to feel that sense of rage that comes with that kind of pain and trauma. It just means that, if your trauma is justifying the dehumanization of others,
Yeah.
you gotta take another look, man. You know.
Well, I think that hopefully that's happening a lot now. You know, like that's why I think the movement to whether it's like I don't do the therapy thing, but my spiritual path. Sometimes I have to do quotes because some people kind of like see it as whatever, woo woo. We'll use the word or superstitious and shit like that. But like it's helping people because healing is the thing that we got to do now, and hopefully these are the last vestiges, the last I don't know how should I put it. God, burps is what's coming out of my like just of darkness and nastiness, because I believe that's what's on the other side of the hill is a beautiful era for humanity, because of the things that a lot of us are talking about and the way that we're facing things instead of just pushing it down and like leaving it unsaid and walling off.
Yeah.
So it's happening, and I think that you as an artist it's very important because you embody something that without preaching to people, they'll see something in you, like you're talking about your family, and they'll take that as an example to do the work themselves. Because you can't tell somebody, you got to do the work. They got to see you doing the work. And
Absolutely. Even children.
Yeah.
Children, they don't learn from preaching.
Yeah.
You have to model it.
Yeah.
If you model it, they'll see it. You know what I mean? But they don't. You could tell them all you want. They're not gonna learn shit.
Fact. They tell me shit. My mom always loves to tell this story that when I was 6, I told her, because she would try to tell me shit. I go, I already know everything that I need to know. You can't teach me anything. At 6 years old, I was telling her that. She's like, okay, I haven't changed. Ending on a light note, I do see you have a sense of humor, and it's, especially now that you're doing a lot of healing. I think that's always been there, but now it's being uncovered. And some of the best humor comes from like dark stuff. Like there was this great quote that I read that laughter is the radiation of like negative emotion, right? So like when you're laughing, you know, the mind play of looking at like irony is often just kind of like deconstructing something that was probably negative. That's why you laugh at somebody sleeping on a banana peel. That's not I mean, it's not positive. That's not happy. That's like, not. But you're laughing nervous after it wasn't me, or you know. So I see in your future some real funny comedic like
oh, for sure, for sure. I'm actually writing a script called "I Love You, Let's Break Up."
Yeah,
and it's
I love that.
Yeah, it's completely different than anything I've ever written. It's like a hood comedy kind of, you know. It's and yeah, there's also very traumatic moments in the film,
right? And
so people deal with, you know, trauma by trying to make it light or make a joke. My father, for example. My father probably has had one of the darkest lives I can think of. He's just made a mess of it. You know, he has no one in his life that has any interest in like visiting or connecting with him. I'm probably one of the last few people in his entire life that has this willingness to reach out. But he will make some of the darkest jokes, and they're so dark that it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
You know, gallows humor. You know, like when people were gonna be taken to the gallows to die, there'd always be a couple of them just cracking jokes. This is the only way you're gonna get through this. It's
Absolutely. When my sister passed away and we were at the funeral, he was making jokes. It was so awkward, but he was having a great time laughing.
Wow.
Yo. So you know, it's true, man. And actually, some of the biggest comedic actors are some of the funny, like the best dramatic ones, actors as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have a connection to that core wound, you know. So
the core wound.
There we go.
Ending off, do you got anything coming up that you wanna? You know, I know you're working on the scripts and stuff, and hopefully that gets rolling. Is there anything else acting wise that you want to tell us to look out for?
I mean, I'm in a show called Power Raising Canaan.
Okay.
It's on Stars. So yeah, the third season is out. It's been a fun little project that I've gotten.
Do you guys shoot that in New York?
We shoot in New York, yeah.
So you go to New York for work anyway?
All the time.
So really, you just got to come take some meetings out here and the occasional role here?
Yeah, that's it.
You're too real for LA. You walk through the door like, here comes the real motherfucker already, bro. Oh man, I can't wait to get back to the fake one afterwards. They're easier. You're like confronting them with their shit. Yeah, the agents and managers you probably don't like looking you in the eye and shit because it just reminds them of all the lies that they tell.
That's hilarious.
Oh, Goya, dude. Listen, man, I'm happy to see everything's working out for you, dude. Like, you deserve it, man. You're an example. I always enjoy talking to you, dude.
Thank you, brother.
And so, dude, just keep on doing your thing, man.
Thank you, man.